Hi, my name is Jamila Grampus Aswood, and welcome to the Autism Resource Training Center. Today we will be discussing pragmatic language therapy and communication coaching supports. I presently work at Jawanio as the coordinator of vocational and placement services and the communication coaching supports specialist. So I first want to start off with what is neurodiversity. So neurodiversity is an acceptance and recognition that we all process and view and experience the world around us in different ways. And so this allows us to be more open-minded to everyone having a different way of thinking, processing certain situations, interacting with others, and it's recognizing the human variation in the world that we all live in. So this diagram here shows that there are plenty of different ways to get to the town. We see that there is one that goes through a tunnel, there's one that crosses over a bridge, there's one that takes train tracks, there's another that goes around a mountain, and there's one that goes the scenic route. There are a lot of twists and turns before they arrive at the town. Now, some may even make a pit stop, stop at the post office, fly in, drive in, walk in. It doesn't matter which avenue you took in, everyone arrives at town. And this is what captures neurodiversity. So we know that autism is very complex. We know that there are many different facets in how it appears in every individual, and this just captures that. We know that there are different ends of the spectrum and levels to the supports that each individual needs. So core autism symptoms are social deficits, language impairment, and repetitive behaviors. This can also be associated with sleep deficits, mood, anxiety, hyperactivity, and some systematic issues such as sleep disorders, mood disorders, anxiety disorders, attention disorders, OCD, ADHD, and sometimes some additional health issues. So some of the pragmatic language difficulties we see are difficulties with social interaction and engagement, initiating, interrupting, continuing, and ending conversations, difficulty with identifying and comprehending emotions in others. So this is difficulty with nonverbal communication, deciding what is the appropriate use of eye contact, what does my body language communicate, my tone of voice, being able to realize when it is my turn to talk, and reading facial expressions, being aware of personal space and gestures. We also see difficulty with executive functioning, and this includes flexible adaptive thinking and being able to monitor oneself. We also see difficulty with processing information appropriately, so non-literal language, being sarcastic, knowing when I should take something seriously or not. Are they joking? Did they really mean that? So for an example of that is, my grandma has a green thumb. And that doesn't necessarily mean that my grandmother has a green thumb. It means that she's good with plants and good with greenery. And so we see that this is a difficulty in differentiating sarcasm, reality, and the message that is being communicated. Adhering to unspoken rules, concrete thinking. So how do I take turns? When do I pause in a conversation? How do I use metaphors? How do I interpret metaphors? And sarcasm, like we previously stated. And we also see difficulty with nonverbal social cues. So eye contact, nodding, folding your arms, facial expressions. All of these things make communication complex, and these are things that we see difficulties in. So some potential college roadblocks that we see are interacting and advocating with professors, teachers' assistants, academic advisors, and colleagues, being able to cultivate and navigate relationships with roommates and dorm staff, engaging appropriately with classmates on group projects. How do we designate work? Who is responsible for what? How do I hold other people accountable? Making and keeping friends. Being able to keep track of completing coursework and attending classes, taking notes efficiently, and being able to manage time and money. And also engaging in independent living skills, such as hygiene. So these are some of the things that we see difficulties with. So how can we offer support? In order to navigate these potential roadblocks associated with post-secondary education and employment settings, individuals with ASD benefit from direct instruction in social and emotional intelligence and regulation, being able to live independently, social and communication skills, cognition, self-advocacy, transitioning skills, and being able to function with executive skills. Some of the general therapy techniques that we use are a person-first approach, so being specific to an individual's needs and catering supports to them specifically. Scaffolding level of support, visual video modeling, social stories and scripts, so being able to relate their actual life experiences to the supports that they're receiving, counseling, direct instruction, role-playing, acting things out, compensatory strategies, and adaptive equipment and technology. So this includes apps to help one track homework assignments, being able to put on the calendar when a test is due, when an assignment is due. So we think about all of these supportive mechanisms and technologies that we're able to use to provide support and therapy. So what is communication coaching? Communication supports is a service for individuals whose functional impact of their disability requires assistance with communication, including but not limited to being on the autism spectrum. This service includes weekly meetings as the individual needs and their supports require in the form of communication support specialist meetings for participants in post-secondary education or engaged in competitive employment. Communication and coaching supports may also assist students for whom post-secondary education has been interrupted, intermittent, or previously non-existent as a result of limitations imposed by their disability. The goal is for independent communication skills to be actively learned from the communication support specialist so that competence can be achieved for gaining and sustaining meaningful employment outcomes and integration into the workforce. So communication supports include social communication, knowing how to regulate emotions, communication advocacy, communication support at post-secondary sites, and communication support at the job site. The goal of these services is to identify specific skills the individual needs in order to be successful in their work environment or post-secondary environment, and provide them with direct person-centered instructions, strategies, and counseling. When provided with effective and ethical services, clients receiving this service should feel more comfortable, confident in the workplace and their post-secondary environment, and should see positive results. So post-secondary education supports include learning how to manage one's time, prioritizing assignments and studying, using real-life application, learning how to communicate and advocate with professors, students, colleagues, coping skills to manage stress, role-playing, forming relationships with others, using technology, tools and apps to manage documents and time, navigating working with peers, like we mentioned before, on group assignments and having study buddies to learn material, learning how to actively listen in conversation, sending a professional email, recording lectures and possibly advocating for those lectures ahead of time, and pragmatic rules in the classroom. What behavior is expected from me when I walk into a lecture hall? So what does this look like? This looks like communication and support at the job site as needed, whether this is communicating with a colleague, being able to advocate with a manager for specific needs and accommodations, person-centered support. So what I like to do when I'm meeting with a client, first I want to establish trust and I want to learn about them. Who are you? What do you like doing? What are your hobbies? And I want to learn how it is that I can help them specifically. How is it that I can help you navigate in your own day-to-day life so that certain things that are difficult for you can become easier and you have the tools to navigate where you're uncomfortable. This also includes problem-solving skills, learning how to manage stress, taking certain steps to know, okay, I need to take a deep breath before I respond. I can have a pre-rehearsed response to something. So for example, you're at work and someone's asking you personal information that you're not comfortable sharing. How do you respond to that? I'm not comfortable sharing that information. So having pre-rehearsed responses already in place so that when faced with a difficulty or an uncomfortable situation, the tools are already there to overcome that difficulty. Registering for college classes, getting enrolled in study halls and extra credit, office hours, attending orientations, navigating online curriculum, knowing when to take a break, whether that's at work or in school, learning how to actively listen. So how do I actively listen? I nod. I maintain eye contact. My facial expression and my body language, they matter. So if I'm sitting in a hall like this or I'm on my desk like this, what is that communicating to my teacher? What is it communicating to the person that I'm in conversation with? Also learning how to manage and navigate social environments, whether that be at work, in a library, in a social event, at an open house. Whatever that is, how do I adjust my communication depending on my environment? Learning how to react versus respond. So if I'm reacting to something, I may often be acting out of emotion and not necessarily thinking about my response before I respond. But if I'm taking the time to respond and think about how I need to answer a question, think about how I need to advocate for myself, then it allows me to be able to speak on my own behalf and be more successful communicating what it is I need from the other person. And also managing and navigating social environments. So social interaction supports include how do I engage in conversation? So we go over how do I initiate conversation? How do I keep a conversation going? The difference between open-ended and closed-ended questions and closed-ended answers. So a yes or a no doesn't keep the conversation going. But if I ask a question after I say yes or no, so how are you? I'm good. And how are you? I've kept the conversation going. Navigating social situations and conflict. How do I deal with conflict when it arises? And for all of us, conflict is so uncomfortable. So having the tools on how to navigate conflict ahead of time helps individuals deal with those challenges. Showing interest, managing my emotions. What are my facial expressions? How do I give somebody else personal space? Nonverbal communication skills, active listening, body language, eye contact, and tone, like we said before. And so the way I say something matters. If I say it a certain way, what I'm saying could be correct, but if my tone is off, it's not received well. Learning the qualities of a good coworker and friend. What is appropriate professional behavior and socialization? What is too personal to share in the workplace? What is too personal to share at college? How do I set up professional boundaries and personal boundaries? Cultural and generational diversity. And so the way that an older generation communicates is not necessarily the way that the younger generation communicates. And there's slang and different ways that we all communicate, and learning the diversity in that and how it is that we come to a common ground to make sure that what is being communicated is actually what is heard on the other end. Visuals and real life examples. So like I said, I like to learn about the individual. I like to know, what is your workday like? What are your challenges at work? What is it that you have difficulty with? Tell me a challenging situation that you've had recently, and let's walk through that. And then giving step-by-step tools to navigate those things. So for example, there's an activity that I do called say it or don't say it. So if my friend has a shirt on that I don't like and I think it's ugly, should I say it just because I'm thinking it, or should I not say it? So these are things that we discuss when we meet. Social interactions in the workplace. So having a shared interest. So this is an example of how I can start a conversation. Let's talk about sports with the boss. What is something that interests you? And then you find a common interest with a boss or a coworker, and it creates a comfort level, and it allows you to create relationships with those around you. Learned information. So for example, if you learn during small talk that someone was going to a concert over the weekend, when you see them on Monday, you can ask them how the concert was. And then general small talk. Examples like the weather. So today it was super rainy. So I was outside and I was walking and got completely drenched because I did not know there was going to be a downpour. And so this is something that I can go to work and talk about. I went for a walk this morning and the sky opened up and I got caught in the rain. How was your morning? Do you like the rain? What's your favorite season? What did you do over the weekend? How was your holiday? Did you go on vacation? Or I heard you're going on vacation. Where are you going? And anything that's happening in the news currently. So reframing of interactions and perceived significance. So an example of this is I enter a room and I say hello and the person doesn't hear me. Now, this can be received many ways. I can have a fear that I might look awkward, or they don't want to talk to me, or they have an issue with me, or they don't like me. So we discuss, is this a big deal? What is the weight of this situation? And will this change anything? And the answer to that is no. If they don't say hello, then nothing changes in my life. And I'm okay. Maybe they didn't hear me. Maybe I need to give them the benefit of the doubt. Perhaps they're having a bad day. Is it a big deal or a little deal? And in this case, it's a little deal. And learning how to navigate these social constructs. So again, we like to take a person-centered approach. So Dr. Stephen Shore said, if you meet one person with autism, you've met one person with autism. No person is the same. And each individual has their own specific skills and deficits. So therapy and coaching supports are tailored not only to their specific skills and deficits, but to what's important to them. So what's important to one individual may not be important to another. Being in school versus being in work are two different things. And what everybody's everyday life experiences are different. So I like to be relatable, meet everyone where they are, and make sure that they have the supports that they need and the tools they need to overcome language difficulties and deficits. So this is my referral and contact information. My email is jamila.grampus@jawanio.org. So that's jamila.gram as in Mary, PUS @jawanio, JAWONIO.org. And I can be reached at 845-708-2000, extension 2249. Thank you so much for your time. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to take this time to answer them. Thank you.